Let's uncover a story that's been wrapped in mystery, commercialism, and layers of tradition, the true story behind Santa Claus. We're diving deep into the origins of St. Nicholas, not as the jolly figure of red and white we've come to know, but as a man who embodied the selfless love and generosity of Christ. His life teaches us lessons that are more than just historical curiosities, they're spiritual truths that challenge how we live today. And trust me, the reality is more shocking, inspiring, and heart-changing than you might imagine. Have you ever thought about what it means to give selflessly? St. Nicholas lived the commandment of Jesus to give in secret, helping those in desperate need without seeking recognition or applause. He left behind a legacy of quiet generosity, a model of giving that points us back to God's teachings. But here's where things get uncomfortable. Over time, the sacred story of St. Nicholas transformed into Santa Claus, a symbol of materialism and commercial frenzy. It's eerily similar to the Israelites in Exodus 32, turning from God's ways to worship a golden calf. Have we lost sight of the true meaning of giving, caught up in consumerism and holiday stress? This journey also brings us to the greatest gift of all, the gift of Jesus Christ. St. Nicholas's life wasn't just about giving material goods. It was about reflecting the divine love that came into the world through Christ. In John 3:16, we're reminded that God gave his Son as the ultimate gift of love. How often do we pause during the holiday rush to celebrate this truth? If you've ever felt the holidays have lost their meaning, this message is for you. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see Christmas and giving in a completely new light. And if this resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Cosmic Grace for more reflections that spark faith and transformation. Let me know in the comments how this story touches your heart. Together, let's rediscover what it means to give, live, and love in the light of God's truth. St. Nicholas, the real figure behind the legend of Santa Claus, lived a life so extraordinary that it echoes through history as a testament to the power of selfless love. His actions weren't loud or boastful. Instead, they whispered the profound truth found in Jesus' words. Do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Matthew 6:3-4. Imagine this man, not in the jolly red suit we envision today, but quietly slipping gold coins into the homes of poor families, saving their daughters from slavery. No cameras, no applause, just the pure joy of giving. Now pause and ask yourself, when was the last time you gave without expecting anything in return? Think of the small acts of generosity you've done. Were they truly selfless, or did they come with an unspoken desire for recognition? This is where the story of St. Nicholas becomes uncomfortably relevant. His legacy challenges us to peel back the layers of our own intentions. In our world, where social media glorifies every good deed with likes and shares, it's easy to mistake attention for impact. The real challenge is to give in secret, trusting that God sees your heart, even when no one else does. St. Nicholas didn't stop to wonder, what's in it for me? His giving was rooted in a deep understanding of God's grace, which flows freely to us and should flee freely from us. The mistake we make is turning our acts of kindness into performances, seeking validation from others instead of living for God's glory. To avoid this, start small, buy a meal for someone without telling anyone, send an anonymous note of encouragement, or donate to a cause that aligns with God's heart. Feel the difference when your giving is for Him alone. But the story doesn't end with giving. It's also a cautionary tale about what happens when sacred things lose their meaning. The transformation of St. Nicholas into the modern day Santa Claus is a sobering reminder of how easily we commercialize what should be holy. It's not a new story. Think of the Israelites in the wilderness. After being delivered from slavery in Egypt, they crafted a golden calf to worship. Exodus 32. They traded the glory of the living God for an idol they could see and touch. Doesn't that feel eerily familiar? The image of Santa Claus, now plastered on billboards and shopping malls, is a golden calf for our time. What began as a story of Christlike love has been reduced to a symbol of materialism. But there's hope in recognizing this. Just as God forgave the Israelites when they repented, we can reclaim the story of St. Nicholas. Instead of being swept up in the frenzy of holiday consumerism, we can shift our focus back to the selfless love he embodied. Imagine how Christmas would feel if, instead of rushing to buy more, we slowed down to serve more, love more, and give more, just like Nicholas did. But even this isn't the climax of the story. St. Nicholas's generosity was only a shadow of a far greater gift, the gift of Jesus Christ. His quiet acts of love pointed to the ultimate act of love. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, John 3:16. Think about that. God, the creator of the universe, gave everything, not gold or trinkets, but his very Son for you and me. How often do we lose sight of this gift in the chaos of daily life? We stress about finding the perfect present or hosting the perfect gathering, forgetting that the greatest gift isn't wrapped in shiny paper. It's the love of God freely given, waiting to transform our lives. The mistake is focusing on what's under the tree instead of what hung on the cross. This Christmas, do something radical. Take a moment to reflect on God's love and let it guide your actions. When you give with the joy of knowing you're reflecting the heart of Christ. When you gather with loved ones, let gratitude for his gift fill the room. And when the noise of the season threatens to overwhelm, remember the story of St. Nicholas, a man who quietly lived out the gospel, one act of selfless love at a time. His story isn't just history, it's a roadmap for how we can live today. Let's honor his legacy by choosing what matters most, loving God and loving others. The greatest transformations don't come from grand gestures, but from small, faithful acts of obedience. Let's live in a way that points back to the true meaning of Christmas, the gift of God's love, given freely for all. The story of St. Nicholas is one that has been passed down for centuries. And in its original form, it was a beautiful testament to the power of generosity, kindness, and Christ-like love. But over time, this powerful story has been twisted, commercialized, and transformed into something very different. We see this transformation most clearly in the figure of Santa Claus, once a symbol of sacrificial love and selflessness, now reduced to a symbol of materialism, excess, and consumerism. The reality is shocking when we realize that what was once sacred has now become trivialized by the pressures of society, marketing, and culture. Consider the way the Israelites, in their desperation and impatience, turned to the golden calf in Exodus 32. They had witnessed the mighty power of God parting the Red Sea, leading them with a cloud by day and fire by night. Yet in a moment of weakness, they chose to worship an idol. They had turned away from the sacred, from the living God, to something made by human hands, something empty and hollow. The golden calf was not a new god, it was a symbol of comfort, convenience, and control. It was something they could see, touch, and mold to their desires. But in doing so, they lost the sacred and traded it for something that could never fulfill them. In the same way, we have traded the sacred story of St. Nicholas for a version of Santa Claus that's wrapped in glittering paper, commercialized and packaged for mass consumption. The real St. Nicholas, the bishop who lived in the 4th century, was known for his unwavering generosity and love for the poor. He gave anonymously, believing that acts of kindness should never be done for personal gain or recognition. He saved families from ruin, offered gold to those in need, and embodied the spirit of Christ's love. His actions were a reflection of the ultimate gift God's love made manifest in the world. But somewhere along the line, the true story of St. Nicholas was overshadowed by a narrative of jolly old men in red suits, reindeer, and presents under the tree. We now associate Christmas with shopping sprees, long lines at stores, and endless advertisements promoting the latest toys, gadgets, and gadgets. The true meaning of generosity, giving out of love without expecting anything in return, has been replaced by a culture of receiving, consuming, and accumulating. The focus is no longer on what we can give to others, but on what we can get for ourselves. And this shift, while subtle, has profound consequences on our souls. It's easy to get caught up in the commercial frenzy. After all, the world tells us that Christmas is about buying gifts, decorating our homes, and outdoing the neighbors with the most extravagant holiday displays. We get swept away by the busyness, the noise, and the constant pressure to do more, give more, be more. But in doing so, we risk losing sight of the sacred, of the real meaning behind it all. We've forgotten that the heart of Christmas is not about the size of the presents or the richness of the feast. It's about love, selflessness, and connection with one another. The mistake we make is thinking that these material things will bring us fulfillment. The mistake is believing that by accumulating more stuff we'll somehow feel more satisfied or complete. But the truth is, we can never fill the emptiness in our hearts with possessions. The more we chase after material things, the further we get from the sacred, from the essence of love and grace that should define our lives. The more we focus on consumption, the more we lose touch with the deeper meaning of the holiday season. To avoid this mistake, we must slow down, step back, and remember the real story, the story of a humble man named St. Nicholas who gave without expecting anything in return. We need to reclaim the sacredness of the season by focusing on relationships, on kindness, and on selfless giving. It's not about how much we spend on gifts, but about the love and thoughtfulness behind them. It's about offering our time, our compassion, and our presence to those who need it most. We need to stop letting the world dictate how we celebrate, and instead let the love of Christ guide our actions and our hearts. This doesn't mean that we can't enjoy the holiday season or exchange gifts. It means that we need to shift our priorities. We need to remember the true meaning of Christmas and allow that to shape how we give, how we love, and how we serve. When we focus on the sacred, when we remember that Christmas is ultimately about the gift of Christ, everything else falls into place. The joy we feel isn't about the presents under the tree, but about the love we share with others. The peace we experience isn't found in the perfect decorations or the perfect meal, but in the quiet moments of reflection, in the giving of ourselves to those who need it most. So, as we celebrate this season, let us remember the danger of losing the sacred. Let us not trade the eternal for the temporary. Let us return to the true story, the one of St. Nicholas, of selfless giving, of Christ's love. And in doing so, we will find the joy, peace, and fulfillment that no amount of material things could ever provide. St. Nicholas's generosity is a powerful example of selfless love, but it also points to something even greater, something that transforms our understanding of giving itself. When we think of St. Nicholas, we remember his secret acts of charity, the gold he gave to poor families, the anonymous gifts that changed lives. His acts were motivated by a love that reflected the heart of God. Yet, as generous as he was, his giving only foreshadowed something far greater, the ultimate gift of God's love, which was given to us through the sacrifice of his Son, Jesus Christ. The shocking truth is this: while we can look to St. Nicholas for inspiration, he is not the source of true, lasting fulfillment. That comes from the gift that no human act of generosity could ever replicate, the gift of Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, John 3:16. This is not a gift wrapped in paper and bows, something you can buy or trade. It is the gift that transcends all human understanding, a gift given not out of excess or obligation, but out of an immeasurable love that would change the course of history forever. Consider for a moment the magnitude of this gift. God, the creator of the universe, sent his only Son to walk among us. Jesus came to experience everything we face, the pain, the temptation, the suffering, yet he remained blameless. He chose to sacrifice himself on the cross for the very people who would betray, deny, and abandon him. He died so that we could live. This is a love that goes beyond comprehension. It's a love that gives without expecting anything in return. A love that sacrifices everything for the sake of others. Jesus didn't wait for us to become worthy of his love. He gave it freely, knowing that we would fail, knowing that we would sin, knowing that we would turn away from him. But still, he gave. In our daily lives, it's easy to forget the true meaning of giving, especially during the holiday season. We become distracted by material gifts, by the rush to buy presents and decorate our homes. We start to believe that gifts are about price tags, about what we can afford or what we can impress others with. But the mistake we make is thinking that giving is about the outward appearance, what we can physically offer, when in fact it's about the heart. True generosity, like the kind St. Nicholas exemplified, comes from a place of selflessness, not from the expectation of receiving something in return. But even that kind of giving is just a shadow of the true gift, the gift of Christ's love. When we learn to give selflessly, we align ourselves with God's will, but we must also remember that true giving isn't about what we can do for others, it's about what God has already done for us. St. Nicholas's generosity is a reminder of the ultimate act of love God, giving his Son for the world. Yet in our daily lives, we often get distracted by the busyness of life and miss the opportunity to reflect on the true nature of love. We get caught up in buying material things for others, hoping that a gift will bring happiness. But in doing so, we overlook the most profound gift, the gift of Christ's love that cannot be bought, cannot be earned, and cannot be replicated. The mistake we make in our daily lives is focusing on the temporary, the fleeting, the things that will pass away. We forget that the greatest gift of all is the gift of eternal life through Jesus Christ. The world will tell us that happiness comes from things, from what we can accumulate, from what we can possess. But the truth is that the only lasting fulfillment is found in God's love. When we open ourselves to the gift of Christ, we open ourselves to a love that never fades, a peace that passes understanding, and a joy that no material gift could ever provide. As we go about our daily lives, we must continually remind ourselves of this truth. The greatest gift of all is not something we can buy or wrap up with a bow. It's a gift given freely through the grace of God, because he loves us beyond measure. And just as St. Nicholas gave without expecting anything in return, we too are called to live in response to this incredible gift. We are called to give selflessly, to serve others, not because we expect anything in return, but because we have been so greatly loved. The act of giving is not just about exchanging material possessions, it's about reflecting the heart of Christ, sharing his love, and showing others the depth of his grace. In the end, the greatest gift we can give is the gift of love, the love that God poured out through his Son, Jesus Christ. This love transforms everything. It transforms how we give, how we love, and how we live. It's a love that doesn't make sense to the world, but it is the love that changes lives, that changes hearts, that brings hope to the hopeless. When we embrace this love, we begin to understand the true meaning of Christmas and the true meaning of Christmas and the true meaning of giving. And when we give out of that love, we participate in the greatest gift of all. Doc, thank you for joining me in uncovering the true meaning of giving and the ultimate gift of love through Christ. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Cosmic Grace, and leave a comment below sharing how you plan to reflect Christ's love this season.